Hey, what's going on, guys? I wanted to give you a quick intro as to what to expect from this interview. When I first reached out to Jim, I didn't know if I wanted to do the interview, right? He said, "Hey, I'll do the interview, but do not bring me the same BS questions that everybody always asks. Don't bring me the vanilla questions." So I was like, okay. I'm glad that I did the interview with him, though, because by the end of it, I realize, I understand exactly where he's coming from. I get it. Jim is the kind of guy who is bold and he's honest and he's going to give you his honest opinion. So that's exactly what he did here. He answered all of my tough questions with total transparency. And sometimes it was a little bit controversial, but it's great to see inside the mind of a top performing real estate agent. So take a look at this interview if you want to, as he puts it, see what really goes on in real estate. Okay, everybody. Today we have a special guest, Jim Bottrell, representing the Jim Bottrell team at eXp Realty. He leads one of the most successful real estate teams around. He's a United States Marine Corps combat veteran. He's got over 30 years experience in real estate, and his team has helped over 2,000 families buy or sell across San Diego, Riverside, and San Bernardino. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to tackle some of the tough questions that people are afraid to ask or even answer. How's it going, Jim?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's jump right in.
When you were talking about that a minute ago, when you gave me the original questions, they were questions that everybody can answer, and they're the fun, happy questions.
Yes.
And I said, absolutely do not ask me these questions. This is a waste. So if we're going to do this podcast, let's get into the down and dirty. Let's talk about the dirty little secrets of real estate. You asked the hard questions. The hardest questions, I said, you can come up with the hardest questions you want. Let's talk about the stuff that everybody's afraid to talk about. And that's what we're going to do now. And you sent me that list of questions last night. Those are phenomenal questions.
Jim, I'm with you 100%, man. So let's jump right in. Is there a conflict of interest when a real estate agent only refers their buyers to the loan officer who pays for that real estate agent's leads?
Actually, no. No, not at all. A lot of people think there are. But you've got to realize that the top tier agents, they're going to have a lot of lenders trying to throw money at them. Right? There's a lot of lenders trying to throw money at them. The individual agent who doesn't really do a lot of business, there maybe is a lender who's willing to contribute a couple $100, but that's not going to impact anything, especially not in today's world. You're not going to generate any business off this. It's going to take massive amounts of money. But here's the thing: is the top tier agents, they have a lot of lenders trying to throw money at them. But the top tier agents also understand that if you decide to co-brand, do the legal co-branding where you're co-doing advertising, things like that to generate leads, that there's no reason to have a low-level, poor-performing lender with deep pockets. Because let's say you do use that money from that low-level, low-performing lender with deep pockets, and you go ahead and generate a buyer. And then you have that buyer, and you're going to spend a lot of time with. You're going to qualify them. Then you're going to go drive them around, look at houses. You're going to hopefully they find a house that they like. Then you're going to write the offer. You're going to work hard to get the offer accepted, and you're going to go through all the escrow process, all the way get to the end, and have the lender drop the ball. What is the value in that? So the top tier agents that really do a very, very good job for their clients happen to work only with the top tier lenders, the lenders that can get stuff done, that can make things happen. So no, there's no conflict there, because what's ended up happening is the client is going to get a much better result, much better experience, because you're only going to be working with top level people. So
Fair enough.
That's why it's not a conflict.
What is the process for deciding, from your perspective, how do you determine who is a top tier lending company to partner with? Do you just trial and error, give it a chance?
There is some trial and error that goes, but I mean, yeah, for me, I used to be a lender, so it's really easy for me to see their mannerisms, their speech patterns, and how they work, and the things that they can do, and I can ask hard questions to find out what it is they can do. But you do have to do a little bit of trial and error. But honestly, the top tier people, they have a trail of success. It's not hard to know who the top agents are in accounting. It's not hard to know who the top lenders are. So you're going to work with them. Now, again, you're only as good as the last deal you ever did, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to make sure you have the ones that never drop the ball. So, again, I don't think it's a conflict, because what that does is that marries up the very top agents with the very top lenders. It gets the client what they want, the best experience and the best results.
And if things change, you make a change, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say is one thing about the real estate industry that is fundamentally broken, but no one wants to talk about?
The barrier to entry is just way too low. The barrier to entry is just way too low. Our industry, and this is going to be controversial, My industry is wrecked with incompetent people. They don't have any idea what they're doing, and they don't take the steps to get better. They think, hey, I checked the box, I got a license. I mean, let's talk about what it takes to get a license, right? Let me ask you this: to be a beautician in California, have a license to work at Supercuts to cut a $10 head of hair. How many hours of training is state mandated for you to be able to do that?
I think they do like 2 years in beauty school or something like
Yeah,
that, right?
100 hours, 2 years, costs about 20 grand, right? Right. Now let's take a step down. Let's talk about a dog groomer. If you want your California dog groomer certification, how many hours of instruction do you have to complete in order to fluff and fold little puppy dog?
I have no idea. Tell me.
6 to 800.
And we're talking 30.
No, it's 130, 135 to be a realtor. 135 hours is the state requirement, but they're not even real hours.
It's all
Because it's
online.
online. So
Yeah.
you open up your laptop, you open up the lesson, which is basically just read a online book, right? And then at the end of every chapter, there's a test, but it won't let you take a test after a certain amount of, until you've been on reading the chapter, right? And then you take the test at the end. But they're not real hours because what people do is they just open it up and go make dinner, right? And then they come back and they try and take the test, and there's 10 questions, and you have to get a 60%. I mean, you can have 40% of the answers fundamentally wrong and still pass, right? Each chapter, right? So you got to get a 60%. But let's say you don't get 60%. It'll immediately show you the ones you got wrong, give you the right answer, and say, would you like to take this very same test right now again?
And you just open
Yeah,
it up
sure.
in another tab.
No, you don't open another tab. You just say retake. And
Yep.
boom, it pops right up. Same 10 questions. It's like, that's ridiculous. The test itself is too easy and it's too hard. So there's way too many realtors that got in here too easy. And the reason I say it's too easy is, if you get a bad haircut, your hair grows back out and you're fine, right? If Fluffy doesn't get combed out and blown out properly, it's fine, right? But look at what we're doing. What are the bad results that can happen in real estate for somebody who doesn't know what they're doing? Because as a realtor, you are supposed to be an expert on contracts. You need to know real estate law, right? You need to help people make the biggest and scariest financial decisions they've ever made in their life, or the biggest thing that they've ever purchased, and the most long-term enduring debt that they've ever experienced. You have to be experts in all of that. And we're doing 1/10 of the licensing requirement to work at Supercuts to cut a head of hair. Are you kidding me? It's a joke. It's a joke. So that is a fundamental problem with our industry. It is far too easy to be a real estate agent, and that's why realtors have such a bad reputation. There's maybe, and I've said this way back when I was a lender back in the 90s. I said, you take the top 2% of agents, these are your professional business people. They will be successful in whatever they choose to be in. They just happen to have chosen real estate. And I said this back when I was, 21, 22, when I was a lender. I said, someday I want to emulate those people. I want to become one of those people someday, right? And I said, then you have that's top, we call it 2%. Then you have the next 18%. These are full-time real estate agents. They're fine. They're okay. They're not great. They're not bad. They're okay. And then you have the next 80%, which is real estate as a hobby. That is why real estate agents have such a horrific reputation. And I'm not saying it's not deserved. It's 100% deserved. And it all stems back to how easy it is to get a license. It should not be that easy.
What would you say if you had the opportunity to fix that or make a change? What would the new hourly be? What would the curriculum look like?
A couple thousand hours. I mean, it's got to be hard because there's an enormous amount of money that can be made in real estate. You're helping people make huge, massive, life-changing decisions. And if you set the people up correctly and explain things to them correctly, you're absolutely changing their lives. A house isn't just a home, a place to sleep at night. It's not just that. It's an investment. It can create generational wealth. A home can actually pay for your retirement through your golden years, and then it can be something you hand on to your children after you leave this earth, which we all will, right? So that's what we call generational wealth. If things are set up properly, you will be able to help people do that. And people are paid based on their ability of what they can get done and what their knowledge is, right? So there's a lot of money to be made. So if you can help people like this and do it effectively, as a real estate agent, you can make a fortune. So I think the licensing requirements need to be much, much harder. I mean, why do we have such high licensing requirements to be a doctor or to be an attorney? I mean,
That's true. The bar has a what,
Massive.
60% fail rate?
Yeah,
Yeah.
massive requirements, massive schooling, massive requirements, because we talk about there are certain professional industries. Of all of them, I mean, real estate could maybe be considered a professional industry, but it should be, but it's not, because we have 135 hours. And this will probably get me in a hearing. But it goes right to California Association of Realtors requirements and NAR's, National Association of Realtors requirements, because their thing is I look at them like a union. What is a union's number one responsibility? People say, to protect the workers. No, it's not. It's a for-profit business. It's to generate revenue get as many employees paying union dues as possible. That's their number one priority. And that is going to piss a lot of people off. Probably going to get a phone call.
That is something I've never thought of before, but
Yeah,
that's absolutely
what it is. Let's get as many people.
Yeah.
Because if you think about real estate, only 7-8% of all realtors ever see their third year in the industry. You have a 90% fail rate inside roughly 24 months. They go broke. They can't do it. So they have to keep dumbing down the bar to get more and more people coming in to pay those dues for those 2 years that they're here. That's not the answer. I would love it if they took our dues and 10x'd them. 10 times what our dues are, but we get rid of 90% of the agents. Now the only thing that's left are professionals. And the unions, the CAR and the NAR, they still make the same amount of money. But now you only have professionals. And their problems are much less. Our stature as professional goes up, and people have a better experience.
Okay, so with that being said, with the current amount of people that are, in your opinion, unqualified to do the job, do you think real estate agents are overpaid?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. Okay, it depends on who you're talking to.
Yeah.
So NAR's own statistics said that the average realtor made $46,000 last year. Okay, yeah, they surprised you, didn't it? $46,000 was the average full-time realtor made $46,000 last year. Now, on the other side of that, you have realtors that make $400,000, $500,000, $700,000, $800,000, and the difference between the two is the Grand Canyon in width. There's no middle ground. Okay, you have the super high performers and you have the people making $46,000. Now, you would expect me to say the super high performers are overpaid, and I'm not going to say that. This is where I'm going to be controversial. The people making $46,000, they're overpaid. Why? Because people they are paid based on what they know, their knowledge, right, and what they can accomplish. Those people that are making $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, $800,000 in a year, they didn't get there by accident. They're really good at their jobs. They're really good at their jobs. They get results for their clients that no one else can get. And they have demonstrated through their very high level of success and high level of income that they are worth it because they have that knowledge and ability to accomplish things. On the other hand, you have the 97% that made not a lot of money, right? Those are the ones that are overpaid because through their lack of success, they have demonstrated to everybody that they don't know much, that they can't accomplish much, that they can take the app on their phone, shoot it at the lockbox, hit the button, right? Do the face recognition thing so the app opens and the key opens or the lockbox opens. They take the key and unlock the door. They open the door and go, "Oh, what a beautiful kitchen!" And that's it. That's the end of their ability. They're overpaid.
And that's what a lot of buyers see and sellers see. And that's why a lot of people think, why am I paying this guy?
So they hate realtors.
Yep.
Yeah, can't stand them. And that reputation, unfortunately, is 100% earned.
What's the difference between the competent real estate agent and the high performing? Obviously, the skill set, right? But how does a real estate agent develop that skill set?
Okay, so I think the best way to do that is to talk about my team. So I have agents that work on my team. For me, I started at a brick and mortar brokerage that offered training, and my training was literally I sat inside a room that was a closet.
Start making phone calls.
No, it wasn't even that. It wasn't even that good. I sat in a closet, and I'm dating myself a little bit, but they had the TV VCR combo, and they put in a Tom Hopkins tape. Tom Hopkins is an amazing sales guy. He really is. But it was a 2-hour me sitting in there watching a VHS tape for 2 hours, and then when the tape ended, nobody even came and got me. That was it. That was the training. So I had to go out and learn everything on my own. And for me, it was fortunately, it was more of a fair fight back then because you could generate leads. Nowadays, with like I said, the combo of the Zillow and the big powerful teams, they've sucked all the oxygen out of it. It's very hard to do that now. But back then, for me, fortunately, it was more of a level playing field. So I would just go out and do my open houses and try and generate business however I could do it. And since I'm in an open house, you're standing, right? So then I would stand and I would focus or face the wall mirror and I would rehearse each one of those 3 or 4 scripts that I had generated to the point where I couldn't get it wrong. Not until I got it right, but until I could not get it wrong. If I could do a script where I wasn't even thinking about it, I could be thinking about fishing or something like that. Well, now that's the muscle memory you need to be able to spit it out. If you have to think about what your next statement's going to be, you don't have it muscle memory yet. And when that client stands in front of you, you're going to screw it up. So it's got to come off. So it was just the absolute obsession about failure. I've always worked my ass off of everything I've ever done. Winning is the natural outcome. And I'm sounding like a prick right now, but winning is the natural outcome when you work as hard at something as I do. And then when you lose, it's like, what? Wait a minute. I have to do whatever has to happen to ensure that that never happens again. So it's all how hard you work. And then also another thing about it is you've got to realize that you've got to accept, and the Marine Corps taught me this one, when I was a young lieutenant in officer candidate school and the basic school, and they said, Lieutenant, you are responsible for everything that happens and everything that fails to happen. And they just beat that into your minds. And, I'm also a big Jocko Willink fan where he talks about the extreme accountability. Everything has to be your fault. And it doesn't matter if it's your fault or not. It has to be your fault. Because only when you accept it as your fault can you change the outcome. Because if it's something else, if it's the market, if it's interest rates or whatever, do you have any ability to control those?
Nope.
No. Then you become defeatist because you can't fix that. If it's something else, something external, you can't fix it. And then now you're a passenger. Now you're a victim. Successful people, they speak in terms of, look at what I did. Look at what I accomplished. Look at what I overcome. And they have a sense of pride in all those things. Unsuccessful people, look what happened to me. Unfortunately, we have a society that we have bred this over decades of people that we kowtow to this as we kowtow to the victims. Bullshit. They will never succeed, especially with the society, the younger society today. All you have to have is just a little bit of grit and grind, and you can just roll over everybody. This whole new generation is just an entire basket of victims, and we've bred it. We have absolutely bred this. I find it disgusting and sickening, but we as society have done it. Not in my household, not in my company, but as society, absolutely, it's terrible.
Do you have kids?
I do. I have 3 daughters.
Oh my goodness.
Getting back at me.
Oh, they're either
Yeah, we had a lot of tears last night going over some math with a 6-year-old.
You're like, you got this wrong. This is your fault.
It wasn't that bad. It was very nice. I was drawing hearts on her hand when she would, when she'd get it right and stuff like that. But she was not getting it and wanted to quit and stop. And mom was like, hey, you need to lay off. I'm like, absolutely not. Test is tomorrow. And it's a timed math test. So I had the timer in front of her. I'm like, you need to get this. And they give you, and she says, well, we have 2 minutes. And I said, yeah, that's right. You got to do it in 1. And why? Because when the pressure's on, things are going to go slower. So if we practice to only the minimum requirement, when something else happens, because we're practicing in my kitchen, when she's in the classroom, it's a different environment. You're going to go slower in the different environment, right? And if we practice only to the minimum standard, she's going to make it. So it was just we're going to do this again and again and again until you can get it down to half the time that you need to do it so that when you test tomorrow, you will succeed.
Your daughters are lucky to have a dad like you. That's going to help them a lot. They might hate you here and there, but
they're daddy's girls. I mean, like when I'm in the house, it's they run in, it's hugs, hey daddy, whatever it is. But they understand that it's strict. There are rules, and you have to adhere to the rules. They get tons and tons of love, but they also get tons and tons of accountability. So yes, there may be a time where we're going to struggle, for a while, but yeah.
But
then mom gave me a handful of hell over that. It's like, you can't be that hard on Ashley, the 6-year-old. I said, test this tomorrow, babe. Had we known about this a couple days ago, or had I known about this 2-3 days ago, I could have walked her into it much more gently. But it's tricky. We don't have time. We don't have time to do this tomorrow.
All right, Jim. So if you had to remove one common practice tomorrow from real estate, what would it be?
It would be the automated searches that real estate agents set up for clients, for buyers.
Oh, I did not expect that.
Yeah, I bet you didn't. All that does is breed a lazy agent, right? They think, oh, we're going to use technology. No, it's a sales, it's a contact sport. And agents believe that, well, if I set this automated search, the computer will sell the house. Are you kidding me? That's not how it works, right? We don't do the automated searches. Like if a person wants to do an automated search, they can do that themselves on Zillow. But it's the agent's job to find the house. And I'll say there's a couple reasons behind that. It's the agent's job to find the house. For one, the buyer's going to realize the agent's actually working for them. Two, you can find the off-market properties. 28% of our buyers buy houses that were not on the MLS. They weren't on Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia, and none of those things.
This is from your database of 100,000 plus buyers and sellers?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all the off-market stuff. So, there's no competition.
That's huge.
Yeah, so that's a big deal. And that's almost 1 in 4, or actually a little over 1 in 4. They actually end up owning a home right now that was never on the market. So no competition. It's nice. But it's contact sport. So you've got to find that. And you got to realize that only 1 in 10 buyers actually buys inside their buy box. And I call it the buy box is when you first meet a buyer, they have a belief of how the world of buying houses works because they've looked online. They have data. All right, they got all the data. They watched the YouTube videos and they asked ChatGPT or whatever, and they think it's going to be this way. And the fact is that it's not. They don't know how it works. They think that they want to buy the castle in Carlsbad with a white picket fence for $300,000, and it should be available, right?
Yep.
Right. So here's the thing, and I'm being sarcastic about that. We actually call it the castle in Carlsbad. It's a whole sales technique that we have called the castle in Carlsbad with a white picket fence for $300,000. You're the unrealistic.
That's what we all want.
Yes, but let's say you take let's call a North County buyer that wants 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, a house built after 1980, priced up to $700,000. Okay.
Tough.
Yeah, you can find, but they think that exists. Great, that's their buy box, right? You know how many people buy inside their buy box actually end up buying inside their buy box? Maybe at most 1 in 10. Now, a good agent will say, as I used to tell my clients all the time, it's like, okay, so that's your buy box. I want to make sure I got this right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand the edges of your buy box a little bit because this is where 9 out of 10 people actually have a successful transaction. It's just slightly outside the box because I know you said you wanted a house that's a minimum of 2,000 square feet. I would hate for you to miss out on the perfect house that is, and I would rattle off all their criteria, but it's only 1,990 square feet. Now, that's the critical thing, the mistake that agents make because they set this automated search to the buyer's buy box, which they don't buy in. And then the buyer only sees things inside their buy box, not the periphery where they will actually buy. They get disheartened and they end up continuing renting. Now, is there ever a time that renting is better than owning? There's not. It just doesn't exist, right? Renting is an awful existence. It's 100% loss every single month. Owning, you get all your money back when you go to sell that house. You get the tax benefits, you get the depreciation, you get the principal, you get the appreciation, you get a pay raise. Like when I bought my first house, I didn't realize this, but when I got my first mortgage statement, and I bought my first house, it was terrifying because my rent, and this is in the 90s, was $825 a month, and I moved into a $2,600 a month mortgage payment. More than triple my rent. And it was almost all of my take-home money. And it terrified me. But, and I was going to cancel at one point in time. And when my dad randomly called me and said, son, you're going to be fine. Like you just, these aren't the drawers you're looking for, right? It was a Jedi mind trick he did with me. So I went ahead and closed on the house. And then I went and I took my mortgage statement into S1, which is the military's version of HR and payroll. And they made the adjustments to my dependents. And I got a massive take-home raise because less taxes was taken out. I got a raise for buying a house. Are you kidding me? So then it was actually really easy. But people don't realize those things about buying. But the automated searches prevent all of that from happening. And all it does is foster lazy agents. I mean, if you're going to be an agent in this industry, and you have to understand that 9 out of 10 people, more than that actually, that get their license, that have their hopes and dreams of selling Sunset, will be broke and out of the business within 24 months. So what you can't do is what everybody else does. It's not going to work. You do what everybody else does, you're going to go broke, and you're going to be in massive amounts of debt, and you're going to be trying to find a job. and you're going to spend the next 3 or 4 years trying to get yourself out of that hole. Don't do what everybody else does.
Okay, so that's two things that you talked about so far that you would change in the industry, right? Raising the barrier to entry for real estate professionals and doing away with automated search. If you had to do one more change in the real estate industry tomorrow, what would it be?
This one's going to ruffle some feathers. Get rid of the independent agents. Get rid of the independent agents. Because today, especially the way things are, there's no one person that can actually properly market a house to sell it. Can't you be a buyer's agent? But to be a listing, you need a team. You need a team with the resources, the collective resources of the team to be able to properly have not just the marketing, but to have the database of buyers that at some point in time have raised their hand, given up their information, said, hey, I'm most likely to buy or sell. But maybe they don't buy or sell for 3 or 4 years. But a large portion of our houses, 67% of my listings get an offer from someone inside my database. We show up with an offer. And now with our cash offer platform, we actually show up with 8 offers right out of the gate, right? Plus the ones that we can mine our database of people who said they're most interested in buying a house, and then we can actually ping them directly and say, hey, we have this house that's going to hit the market. Most sellers don't hire a listing agent and go active that weekend. They're months out. So we're able to go into that database and ping those buyers that maybe aren't quite ready yet, but now we've got this, hey, this is this great house that's going to be coming up on the market. And like, holy crap, Martha, this is going to be coming up in 3 months. We can get our this taken care of and this taken care of and this taken care of, and we're going to be ready for that thing in 3 months when it comes active. And then we just put them together.
So what does that mean? The independent real estate professional needs to join a larger team?
In my opinion, because I don't think that the individual agent is, you don't have the budget for it. You don't have the budget to be able to properly market a house to not just, anybody can put in the MLS. You can do that. The agent who got their listing yesterday or got their license yesterday can put something in the MLS. And it automatically syndicates to Zillow. But that's where most agents think it stops. Let me just put it out there. Bang a sign in the ground.
Take some pictures of my cell phone.
Take some pictures of my cell phone. Hopefully my fingers aren't in it, which we've seen. And then, get on the knees and pray. So yeah, that's what they're hoping is that that Zillow will bring them a buyer, but that's only part of it. And if you're going to sell your sellers' homes for more money, you need more than that. And I just don't think the individual agent can do it anymore. Not today. Go back 10 years ago and beyond, yeah, they could. But that's why the big teams are taking more and more and more market share, because we can pool the resources of all the sales of our agents and then use that massive amount of marketing dollars. I'm over $100,000 a month in marketing. Can the individual agent do that? No, they cannot.
Maybe not even 1,000.
Most of them can. Well, most agents are broke.
Do you think that would cause some sort of monopoly if that happened? Like, would it be harder for the buyer or seller to get that personal touch?
Well, some teams have a system to where the listing agent actually just shows up. We'll sign the contract, then it gets dropped into the staff, and then they never have a conversation with that listing agent again, the person who took it. Mine is not like that. There are teams that do that. Most of them don't, because some do, some don't. I've never done it that way. I don't like it. So mine is, we generate the leads. The agent will go out, take the listing, they bring it back, hand it to the listing coordinator, and we have certain processes, and it gets dropped into. Now you have all of the extra people, the marketing people, listing coordinator, the inside sales agents that are going to work the database. It automatically goes out. There's all kinds of things, but the agent is still running the transaction. They just get an enormous amount of support that happens. The agent is not the one that's responsible for marketing the home, but they are the point of contact. They're the ones that negotiate the offers, are the ones that handle all the problems. But as far as marketing the home and all the behind the scenes stuff, my agents aren't doing any of that.
So the support that they have is what allows them to provide that personal touch.
Yeah, think about if you're juggling all the balls.
Yeah,
right.
It's hard.
And I was the individual agent for the longest time, where I was pretty good at it, and so I got really busy. And I got busier than I could handle. And I actually became an awful real estate agent. I was terrible. Why? Because I couldn't do everything. I was literally waking up at 4 a.m. and by 5 a.m. I was already overwhelmed going, I can't get this shit done. Like there's no way. And it's only 5 a.m. That's a horrible feeling because there's all the things that need to happen. I mean, you're in charge of the marketing, the negotiation, you're handling the problems, you're doing the paperwork, you're doing the compliance, you're doing all these things. You can't do that at a high level with a lot of people at once. So you need to have the team. So yeah, it's controversial, but I don't think the individual agent can do it anymore.
True. Same on my side too. As a lender, it's you can't do it all on your own. If you do a bad job.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So how about this? Should the real estate industry do away with dual agency?
No. No.
Interesting.
A lot of people say yes, it's conflict. And I can give you all kinds of examples as to why.
There's a lot.
Just generally speaking, a listing agent is going to be a higher caliber realtor than somebody who's just buyer's agent. When you start in the industry, you're a buyer's agent because you can meet them at the open houses. You can meet them, if you're part of a team, maybe hopefully the team is giving you the buyers. They're not going to give you the listings because, buyers take time. They take time, right? You're meeting them, you're showing houses, stuff like that. Listings take experience and an enormous amount of mental energy because listings are hard and they're different sports. But you have to be working with buyers because buyers are fairly easy to get. Listings are incredibly difficult to get. They're incredibly, so it takes time and experience to generate the pipeline of past sales, to get the referrals, to get the listings. You have to have a track record of listings in order to get listings. So typically an agent's not going to they're not going to start getting listings in probably year 5. And if they're part of a team, they can probably get them at the end of year 1. If they're a good buyer's agent, then they'll put them into listing training, and then they'll come out and they'll hopefully be a good listing agent. But the listing agents tend to be better agents. There's more experienced, better agents. They've made it past the 2-year mark, right, where the 90% washout. All right, so now that listing agent will generate the buyer. You get the listing first before you get the buyer. Right, you're like, I have a buyer, let me go find a list. No, it doesn't work. You already have the listings, you're already a listing agent, and then you get the buyer that shows up. One of those higher caliber agents can actually be much more impactful and useful than 2 different agents, because what screws transactions up is typically not the buyer, it's typically not the seller, and it's typically not the house. You know what screws it up? Agents' damn egos screw it up. Right? Their egos screw it up. They try to go out there and be the hero and beat the... No, you got to remember, you have a family that wants to buy a home to change their lives. And you have a seller who would like to sell their home to change their lives. And they lose the focus of that because they want to compete and do this all the time. And you got to be the hero. And also, no, it's not about being the hero. It's about getting them what they each want. And one agent can do that. Now, they have to be very transparent about it. But one agent can get these 2 what they want much better than 2 agents coming together. A dual-sided deal rarely falls out. When you have the 2 opposing wills, they fall out all the time. And I can go over and over and over, but even this morning, I had a phone call where I had to step in. And actually, well, I didn't even step in. The buyer's agent, not part of my team, called me. This is what's going on. And I had a nice talk with her, and I said, look, I think you're losing focus of this. I want to help you, and it's over an AC unit. I mean, we're talking like $7,000 a part on a $1.2 million house. This is not a conversation. This can happen very easily. Yet this buyer's agent is, we bought and it's like, did you submit the request for repairs? No, I haven't, because she's seeing me on these diatribes, these giant emails about all these things about an AC unit. It's like, submit the fucking paperwork, okay? Just submit the fucking paperwork. That's it. That's all you got to do. Just submit the fucking request, and we'll see what we can do for you. And I told her, I said, look, I say this to all my agents all the time. Don't be the hero. Get the people what they want. Because what you're going to do is, while you're writing these things, I'm sure you're talking to your clients about how you have to win over this AC unit, and you're going to turn them off on their dream house, and they're going to end up not buying the dream house. How did that help them?
Well, does that give the buyer a disadvantage? Because from an outside perspective, if you're the listing agent, it seems like your first priority is to the seller. And then the buyer comes in and, they're like, in the order of operations, they would be second place, right? So do you kind of think maybe they might be on the back burner, the buyer?
That's a legit question. Remember, there's no sale until both the buyer and the seller come together on price and terms. you are correct in that there was a relationship between that listing agent and that seller that predated the buyer entering the situation and predated entering the picture. The potential for bad things to happen does exist. It truly does. What we would hope for and rely on is that you have a good agent as the listing agent that understands that, look, there is a seller who wants to sell a house and there's a buyer who would like to buy that house. They both want to change their lives. Your job is to bring them together where it's all amicable. That's it. The level of transparency has to go up tremendously. I've actually sat in rooms where I've actually had the buyer and the seller sit at the same table. I said, let's just discuss all the terms. You guys are face to face. Let's do it.
Ooh,
Yeah, I've done it. Oh, I love it. It's fun.
that's
Nobody else ever does that, but it's like,
right.
why wouldn't you do that?
Because it's a little bit scary.
Yeah, well, you also, when you see each other's faces, they calm down. Human beings, it's very easy to get angry via text and email and stuff like that, right? Because that's when that stuff happens.
Yeah.
But if they've actually seen each other's faces, they're much less likely to do that.
There's a better communication going on.
Because it's a human being. It's not some, email being sent off.
Yeah, and you're reading it in a different tone than when it was sent or whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah, well, that's why I have a policy in my company is that my agents aren't allowed to text or email the clients until they're in escrow. So that you can receive a text or an email, you have to call them back.
Oh,
Yeah, because email and text don't exist until they're in escrow, right? Because that person is going to read your text or email in the mood that they were in before you ever generated the text or email.
Mm.
Yeah, there's a very funny, I think it's Kyle and Peele. What is it?
Key and Peele. Yeah.
God, there's a funny skit that they have, and it's a text conversation between the two of them where one of them is just like, yeah, buddy, whatever. And then it was like, buddy, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. It was hilarious. Anyway, I took that and I sent that to my whole team and said, perfect example of why you don't text and email the clients. So yeah, agents on my team will get in trouble if I find out that they're doing it.
Speaking of things that real estate agents do and do not do, what's the difference between the lower performers and the higher performers? With all of the data available, like you mentioned, Zillow and the other big platforms, why do buyers and sellers even need real estate agents anymore?
Yeah.
Wow, actually, it's a valid question with the way things are going today. Because I mean, I can take my phone right here, because we've become a very point-click society, right?
Yep.
I can guarantee you that within a couple minutes, that of never speaking to anybody, I could probably get a dishwasher installed in my house later on today with never speaking to anybody. Okay, that's the way society's coming. But we're not buying a dishwasher. The misconception is that data is all you need. The thing is the actual know-how of how to do it. So this kind of also blends into the for sale by owners and stuff like this. Buyers and sellers, especially buyers, they have rights. Data is not going to tell them that. The data is not going to be able to negotiate for them. Very controversial, I say that most real estate agents don't even know how to buy or sell a house. Because, what would you expect with 135 hours of training, right?
Right.
Yeah, they have no idea how to do it. Oh, by the way, in that schooling, that 135 hours, a little side note here, you know what they don't teach you in 135 hours in real estate school?
What?
How to sell a house, how to buy a house, how to market a house, how to negotiate, how to handle crisis. There's like not one class, not one lesson, not one chapter, not one paragraph on any of those things. Training is absolutely useless. You don't use any.
So it's trial by fire for a lot of folks, in which case the buyers and sellers are the ones who get caught up.
Yeah. And so the misconception is that data is all you need. Well, I mean, that's for sale by owners think, hey, I can jump on Zillow and advertise my house for sale, but they don't have the actual distribution, nor do they know how to negotiate, because most agents don't even know how to do it. And you have to realize that for a buyer, this is moving into the largest purchase you've ever made in your life that is accompanied by the largest amount of debt that you've ever had. The responsibility for that is insane, right? And for sellers, in most cases, the seller's house is their family's largest asset. I wouldn't trust a new agent with that, much less somebody who's never done it. That is how bad things happen. That is how things don't get disclosed. That's how properties don't get properly transferred. That's how you end up in court. Right? That's how you end up in that. So that's just part of it. I think it's very foolish. I truly believe you get what you pay for. It's very foolish to go with a new agent who discounts their commission because they only value themselves at that level. Right? Why? I mean, if their very first inclination is to give away their own money, how quickly are they going to give away yours? right? And if their first inclination is to give away their own money, what's their level of skill and ability to accomplish things? What's their level of knowledge? They know they suck. So the only way that they could get somebody to use them is by doing it cheaper. That doesn't get you the result you want. A good agent pays for themselves. A good agent will oversell the house because they have, and they may be more expensive, but they're going to have the distributions, they're going to have the database, they're going to have the experience to handle problems, and they're going to be able to negotiate the offers up higher in excess of what their commission is. Good agents pay for themselves. So going back to your question with AI and all these other things, why does somebody need a realtor? Right? Because you're not going to have a good, happy ending if you don't, because you don't know how to do it. The misconceptions, you think all you need is the data. It's not the data, it's the interpretation of how to use the data. And that's what you don't know.
So for the people who are thinking, why do I even need a real estate agent? I have everything that I need online. Basically, you're saying that they're comparing the value of a real estate agent to the bottom 90% when they should be comparing it to the top 10% in what they would be getting with that kind of experience, right?
I mean, it's the difference between, cost is only concerned in the absence of value. So people are doing this AI thinking they're going to do it themselves, thinking I'm going to save these expenses, and they believe they're going to get the same result as an agent. So if I can get the same price, or from the buyer's perspective, if I can get a discounted price because I don't have an agent, well, then I'm going to do that. And they are assuming that all real estate agents are the same. But there are plenty that are not.
Yeah.
They will actually get you a better result. But again, it's not hard to find the top tier agents, by the way. The top tier agents are everywhere. You're going to hear them on the radio. You're going to see them on TV. You're going to see them on the news. You're going to see maybe their billboards. You're going to hear them on the radio. They're going to be everywhere. Those are the top agents, right? Because that stuff's prohibitively expensive. I mean, prohibitively expensive. And the only way that you can afford that stuff is if you're really good at your job and you're selling a lot of houses. The average agent that's not good at their job, they don't have a budget of $100,000 a month. They don't have a budget of $100 a month. Okay, because that's the reality of it.
All right, so we talked about this a little bit already, but the second part of that question I wanted to ask is, because of these DIY home selling platforms and because of the information that they're able to get online, are agents becoming obsolete?
Yeah, actually, that's a great question. Let me take you in an angle that you probably weren't expecting. Yes and no. It will expedite the demise of the lesser agent because all they know how to do is the basic stuff that AI can do. That's all they know how to do. So AI can replace them very easily. So good. I like the AI. I like bringing it on. I can use it to my advantage in a couple ways. I have the ability and the budget to properly use AI through our database and things like that because we use a ton of it, right? And then it also is cutting the legs out from the lesser competition because AI is replacing them. So yes and no. It will elevate the top tier agents and it's going to end the lesser agent.
I like that.
Both of those are going to happen.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And I know you didn't really like the question about, why is interest rates being higher a good thing, right? But I think that's kind of what I was thinking is like higher interest rates and lower inventory. It may be a bit of a challenge for a lot of people, but it kind of just separates the strong from the weak.
Well, it'll do that. Make housing prices go up too.
Yeah.
The higher interest rates, people are rate locked right now. They have, most home owners that bought prior to, January of 22, they have an interest rate starts with a 2 or a 3, right? I have a 2.25 on my house, so, the old saying is I used to love my interest rate, but now I used to love my home, but now I love my interest rate. They're not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere. We're in the same boat. We were thinking, hey, we could do this. We're like, no, let's put a pool. Right?
Yeah.
We're going to remodel a bunch of stuff. We're going to put a pool. We got all that stuff going right. Our house is a mess. But yeah, we're not going anywhere. All right. So people who would normally upsize or downsize, they're not, because they're not going to leave a 2.5% interest rate to go to a 6.5% interest rate to get a house that better fits their needs. So they're just not moving. So the higher interest rates, it makes things more challenging. I was expecting rates to come down this year, but when Powell on December 18th said, hey, we're only going to move to 2 rate reductions in 25, I said, wow, okay. Because I was thinking that 2025 was going to be like 2021 all over again.
Oh yeah.
Right, because if we can get interest rates in low 5, then all of a sudden that rate
Everybody's happy.
thing starts to go. Because I mean, we're in 4 years of people's houses not quite fitting their needs. You know, I mean, the houses, you know, you have painfully too many bunk beds inside a bedroom, or the house is painfully too empty, or the stairs are too painful to go up and down anymore. I mean, the house doesn't fit the needs, but they're not gonna double the price or triple their monthly payment to do that. I thought it was going to be great. I thought we were going to be 2021 all over again. And when Powell opened his mouth, I said, okay, that's the government admitting they don't have inflation under control. And they don't. All you have to do is look at the M1 money supply. Look at what we did. We tripled the amount of money, the amount of dollars that were in currency, in population, or in circulation. That's the word I was looking for. And we did that in 24 months. I'm amazed that I can't understand how they say inflation was only 9%. There's no way. It was only 9%. Let's say we doubled it. Let's say we went to 25%, right? That's still not enough for the amount of money that got poured into the economy with no additional goods and services to purchase with that money. That's what happens. That's what inflation is, when there's too many dollars chasing too few goods and services. And when you take all that money and you just triple the amount of money that's in the population or in circulation, you're going to have massive inflation. There hasn't been enough yet. And when Powell said on December 18th, it's like, hey, we're going to do 0.25% here, but we're going to change from 4 rate reductions, a focus of 4 reductions next year down to 2, maybe, right? And I said, oh, they just admitted they don't have inflation under control, which is why the stock market dropped 1,100 points within about an hour. And interest rates, mortgage rates went from like 6.25 to 7 in about an hour.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, this is what we're going to have. You are correct. This will continue to make it harder on the industry. We are going to see, right now we are on January 16th, right?
Yep.
Watch what happens to the industry on February 15th. February 15th is when real estate agents who haven't paid their annual dues, when their MLS gets cut off.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's due on January 1. If you didn't pay it on February 15th, everything turns off. Your ability to open a lockbox turns off. Your ability to do the MLS turns off. And that is the day that they quit the industry, because they did not make enough money in 24 to be able to justify paying another $1,000 for their dues on January 1. And they don't have any hope of having new buyers, and they finally just quit the industry. So that's going to happen. Every year over the last couple of years, we've had just a mass exodus on that day.
I love it.
So as we get agents that are coming in to join our team, one of the questions that we ask them now is, okay, show me the receipt that you paid your dues. Because I can put somebody into training and spend a ton of training on them and then give them appointments only to have them quit on February 15th. I made that mistake once, and it was expensive. So now it's like, no, show me the receipt.
So you welcome the challenge.
Yeah, I mean, it's iron sharpens iron, right?
I love it.
Your old people, the winners will always find a way to win, and losers will always find a way to lose.
On that note, let's talk about disruptors and winners and losers. What do you think is going to be the biggest disruptor in the industry over the next 5 years? How will that affect the winners and the losers?
You mean besides trying to get fire insurance?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's one challenge that does not make me happy.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's been an inconvenience. I was on the news talking about this a couple days ago. Fire insurance has been, it was always an inconvenience up until about 2 years ago. And then the last 2 years, it's kind of become a problem. And I think after this, it's going to be an absolute crisis. All right. But going back to what we were talking about, disruptors in the industry. It's going to be that 9,000-pound gorilla, not 900 pound, 9,000-pound gorilla, Zillow. And then I know Homes.com is trying, and Redfin's trying to do it, and Realtor.com, and Truly really doesn't exist so much anymore. But you got to realize that that's going to be the massive disruptor, because they are a Wall Street company. They are a Wall Street company with unlimited funds and no need to make a profit. How do you compete with that? And then what they've done is they have teamed up, joined forces with a few of the biggest powerhouse teams in every region. So I'm one of, I think, five of the 5 biggest teams in San Diego County and Riverside County. I'm one of them. Now, when you join forces with that Wall Street beast, that monster, with the teams that have the capability to make that work, they suck all the oxygen out of the room for everybody else. And that's the future, because there's no team, there's no company that compete can't compete with a Wall Street company that has unlimited budgets and no need to make a profit. Can't compete with that. Now, a few of us have been brought along. Fantastic. We work hard to maintain and nurture that relationship and make it better. But yeah, that's the biggest disruptor I see. What's the cost of a lead? Right? They're making those go away. And then you still got to convert that. Then you realize that when you pay all that money for that lead, upfront money for that lead, that every moment you're not talking to them, Zillow and Trulia and Realtor.com, they are. And they will do everything they can to pull that person from you. So that's going to be the biggest disruptor to the industry. And we're going to see even a bigger separation between the haves and the have-nots. And good, honestly, good. Because you don't make it as an agent on one of the big teams unless you're good. You have to be a good, hardworking agent. Because the teams like mine, we will fire realtors. Like, bye, right? You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Okay, because that's it. Because we dump enormous, because it costs money. Every buyer's appointment that I send an agent on costs $1,515. That's what that cost. Every time I send one of my listing agents to sit at somebody's kitchen table to talk to them about selling their house, that's $3,448. The teams are paying that. So when an agent joins a team, it's the team that's taking the risk on the agent, because the team has to train that agent, have them pass their tests to where we're confident enough of them to start investing our money into that agent. Give that client to buy that house, help that buyer buy that house, help that seller sell that house, and give them a good experience so we can generate referrals off of it, right? If they don't do that, they're gone. Now, if an agent wants to be an individual agent and go join, one of the other brokerages that I won't name, like all the other brokers that I won't name, who's taking the risk? Because is that broker actually investing in sending that agent on appointments, not giving them leads, right? There's a big difference between leads and appointments. Leads, an internet lead is garbage. An actual appointment, you have an appointment to meet Mr. and Ms. Smith at their house at 1065 Gunter Court, Tuesday at 5 p.m. They want to sell their house and they'd like to buy another house over here. That's an appointment. That's an appointment. That's what the teams set for agents. You don't give them leads. Now, the big block brokerages or other lesser teams might say, we'll give you leads. We'll talk about what a lead is. It's an internet lead. You ever go on Facebook, right? You see who had what salad for lunch, right? All this stupid crap that's on there. But over in the margin, right? Maybe there's a beautiful woman in a bikini, right? You're like, yeah, let's click on that. Let's see more about her, right? Natural women, maybe just the guy with a washboard, six-pack abs, whatever it is. Click on that. What you didn't realize that in the blurred background there was a house, right? So that was the clickbait. You clicked on it. Boom. Facebook thinks it's a real estate company sponsoring that lead, by the way. Boom. Here you go. Here's your real estate lead, and this is the person's information who clicked on it. Here's your real estate lead, realtor. Go for that. Were they really looking for houses? Did they have any interest in the house? No, they want to look at the girl in the bikini or the guy with the 16-pack abs. They have no interest in real estate. That's a lead. Leads are awful. Appointments are great.
How often would you say real estate agents look after their buyers and sellers more so than they look after their own commission?
It's a great question. Do you remember when I was telling you about the difference between the agents, the $46,000 agents versus the ones that are 4, 5, 6, 700, 800,000 a year? Okay. So the $46,000 and below agents, you're saying what's more important to them is the commission or the buyer seller getting what they want, right? Where are their priorities? The $46,000 agents, 100% their commission. It's about this. Right?
They need it.
They need it. They're broke. Okay. They only do something a couple times a year. They're broke. They need that escrow to close on Tuesday because they have bills to pay. In fact, they have bills that are overdue. They're past due that they got to pay. Right. That's the world of most of the agents. They are broke. They need that deal to close. It has to close. So they'll do and say whatever they need to do in order to get that deal to close. That's terrible, isn't it? Now, on the other hand, the really high performers, the ones that are making the 400, 500, 6, 7, whatever, $100,000 per year, they don't have those problems. It doesn't matter to them if this escrow closes for this buyer or this seller. They're going to service the client. It's save the client, protect the client, kill the deal if you need to kill it. We'll go find them something else. So when I was doing it, my view was always, and I was very open about this, I would say this to my clients. I said, not your commission I'm after. I'm not after this commission at all. I'm after your friend's commission. Because I want to give you such a great experience and get you what you want to such an extent that you're going to tell all your friends about. That's what I want. I don't care about this deal. I don't care if you want this house, that house, or the other house, or whatever it is. Whatever house you want is great. I'm going to give you a great experience. If it takes a little bit more time, if we've got to kill an escrow because that house isn't what we thought it was, right? No problem. We'll kill it. And that's the difference between the low performing agent is going to be very commission driven, coin operated, if you will. And they're going to be living in a world out of desperation. Whereas the highly successful agent, you're going to know the difference of it. You like the unsuccessful one they can't fake that, right? They can't pretend to be that. They're just not going to be there yet. And the highly successful ones, you're going to know them because they walk in a room, they've got a presence, they dress right, they walk into a room and they own the room, right? Those are the high agents. So, I should be able to walk into a room and know who the real estate agent is. Because at the high performer, you're going to know exactly who that person is. And you don't even have to have a conversation. You can just watch it. Right? You can figure that one out real quick. So they're the ones that are really the really good ones. As again, you get paid on a scale of what your knowledge and your ability to do things, to solve problems is. They're very, very good at it. They got a ton of experience and they make a ton of money. So they should have a ton of money. They don't care about this deal. So they're not very commission driven, interestingly enough. But the ones that are desperate, yeah, be careful of them.
Good point.
How's that for controversial?
I love it. And that's also what I love about this industry too, is it's performance based. It's like sports. You get what you're worth. You get out what you put in, so to speak, right? And if you're not performing, you don't get paid. If you're performing at a high level, the sky's the limit. And
there is no upper limits. It's one of the things I love about my sales teams. I tell them, we don't put any upper limits on what you can make. In fact, we succeed or we fail together. So I have a vested interest in making sure you succeed.
What stereotype about real estate agents do you secretly agree with?
This is going to be a fun one. Do I secretly agree with that there are a lot of real estate agents out there that are unemployable? Yeah, I said that. Unemployable. They could not keep a job. They can't keep a job, so they think, I'll go be a realtor because I've seen Selling Sunset. Right? That's what it's like. I'm going to go do that. People become real estate agents for 3 reasons. Right? One, they think they're going to make a ton of money. They think they're going to get plenty of time off.
Not in this industry.
Successful. Not if you're successful. I mean, there's a joke, but it's totally true. If you ever want business, if you're a realtor and you want business to pick up, go on vacation. Because of those buyers that were all on hold, or those sellers that weren't going to move, we're not, like maybe you got a listing agreement or whatever it is, or you don't yet, but you've got the follow up scheduled, right? When you go on vacation, like literally when you land in the airport and you take your phone out of airplane mode, and here comes all the time. It's all those people. All those people who don't know each other, know of each other, have all found that period of time, that 3 hours that you were in the air, to make the decision that they want to buy a house this weekend or they want their house listed this weekend. That's it. So no, you don't get plenty of time off. And then the other thing is they think they can set their own hours. So it's number one, they're gonna make a ton of money. 2, they're gonna have plenty set their own schedule. I'm sorry, they're gonna have time off. And the 3 is they're gonna set their own schedule. Yeah, you can set your own schedule. If you're successful, you set your own schedule. It starts at 6 a.m. and it finishes at 10 p.m. and it's 7 days a week. That's your schedule. If that's the schedule you want to set, yep, you're going to be successful. There are so many agents out there that don't have the ability to do that. They don't understand that you're always working. Now, I'm always working. I mean, I'm up at 4 something in the mornings and I go to bed at 10 o'clock at night. My phone is never farther away from me than this. That is where my phone lives. If you're a realtor, your phone is in your hand. But it doesn't matter where you are in today's virtual world. You can be anywhere. You can be watching TV with your kids, watching a movie, having popcorn with your kids, watching whatever kids show that they want to watch. I do that all the time with mine. But I work at the same time. That's okay. My kids understand it, right? They know that I provide a very nice life for them, and they appreciate that. They understand that daddy has to work. Mom and I have been really good about that. If I'm on the phone, I will be physically present with you, but sometimes I'm just got to handle a problem on the phone. Right? I can be on vacation doing that. I can do the only thing you can't do that you have to be physically present for is to actually show a house. And that's another one of the big advantages with being a team. You have a team. You have teammates you can call. Hey, can you show the Smith family a couple houses for me? Sure. Because they know that agent's going to ask the same request later on. So yeah, that's my answer. Is a lot of the energy, or a lot of the industry is unemployable.
Hot take.
Yeah. Well, it's true though.
Yeah, that's the honest truth.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Yeah.
Not all. There are some really, really good stellar agents out there. I don't want to say everybody's unemployed. There are stellar agents out there. True business people that are really, really good at what they do. But then we have 70 people that need to go.
It looks like they're on their way out.
Yeah, they are.
February 15th, right?
Yeah, February 15th, we'll see the mass exodus.
What is one trend in real estate that makes you roll your eyes?
Oh, stupid TV shows.
Selling Sunset.
Selling Sunsets.
$1 million listing.
What's funny is we actually just had an agent join our team yesterday from them, who she moved from Florida. She's a top agent on a team, and I've been friends for years with the owner of that team. So she moved out here, moved to LA, was on that Selling Sunset for 6 months, never sold a single house. Never sold a single house, and now she's with us. And it's like, yeah, well, you know how to work this team because your old team leader Lori and I are friends, and our teams are identical. So we're happy to have happy to have this fun young lady. But the Selling Sunset thing is funny because I've only watched it a couple times because I honestly want to just throw up in a bag. It's beautiful women that are doing brunch and happy hour, always drinking alcohol, right? Always wine, always champagne. They go to a house. It's a multi-million-dollar beautiful house that looks wonderful. You have the couple that shows up. They're beautiful as well. They like the house. Let's go ahead and write your offer. It's accepted. And then boom, the agent makes hundreds of thousands of dollars. Or the other side is on the listing side. They will show up again, beautiful house, beautiful couple that is well-mannered, looks good, professional, can speak to you. The house is nice. It's all bullshit. Okay, so here's what real estate really is. There's nothing on that TV that is real. I have so many hundreds of stories, but I'll tell you. What it doesn't show you on TV is when you're working with the buyers, and maybe it's a first-time home buyer. Maybe it's a barely first-time home buyer. So you're in the ghetto helping this young couple trying to get their first house, and you're in the ghetto. Okay, fantastic. You're in the ghetto. That's fine. That's not a problem. But then you go inside and look at houses, and you walk inside a house, and next thing you know, you have fleas crawling all over you. I can't tell you how many times that happened to me. But literally, fleas all over you. Like, that's great. Get back in the car. Now I got fleas all inside my car. And I'd have to, we really want to go to other people's houses at this point in time because that's an awful thing to do. Hey, we're going to bring our fleas and give everybody fleas. So we're done looking at houses that day. Got to go home, call the wife and say, hey, can you put a towel in the downstairs bathroom because I got fleas all over me again. I'm going to park this car in the street and just let it heat up in the sun to kill the fleas that are in my car. But I'm going to walk in the garage, close the door, strip down, throw a hefty bag in the garage, right? So I can strip down naked in the garage, put all my clothes inside a hefty bag, open up the side door of the garage, throw the bag of my clothes into the sun so that'll cook the fleas, and then walk straight into a shower right at the garage. That's bicep. I can't tell you how many times that happened to me. Or I think one of my favorite ones was a little old couple that I showed in one of my early days. Because I got to the point where I could get people, they were going to buy a house in the first or second outing. That was it. I learned all my skills. I learned the order you put the houses to do certain things to where it was exceedingly rare if anybody ever got in my car a third time. They were in escrow on the first outing and the second outing. I just got good to where I could package things and make it all work for them. But early on, little old couple, it's like weekend after weekend after weekend after weekend after weekend after weekend. And he's like, and this is, you're not getting paid for this. We're commission only. We only get paid when escrow closes, and if you never find a house to write an offer on. And one day they finally admitted to me that they're not really going to buy a house, that they're lonely and they're bored. Okay, that's not in Selling Sunset, is it?
Absolutely not.
No. Let's talk about sellers. Can't tell you how many times that I've walked into houses where I'm like, holy shit, standing in the street and like, oh my God, like this is terrible, right? Just crap everywhere. Porterhouse. Fine, knock on the door. Somebody, answers the door. They stink. They haven't showered in a month, right? And you're like, oh God, right? And you walk in and you get inside. Now you get the first glimpse of their house, and it's just trash and garbage bags. There's literally a path like from the front door to the kitchen and a path to the bedroom, and it's about that wide, right? And again, you got fleas all over you again, but then also in that path are little piles of cat and dog shit everywhere. So you're just constantly meandering and things, and the house smells, the person smells, and you got this stuff running down the wall that you hope they just threw a can of chili on the wall. Okay, this is real. Okay, this is real. I'm not making any of this up. This is real. And then you stand there and talk to them about their house, and you're thinking, I got to get out of here, right? That is the reality of it. Or you get the people that are in financial distress, like in the short sale days, where they haven't made a payment on their house in 3 or 4 years, right? But they've been living there for free, and now the bank's legit going to foreclose on their house. And I think we're going to start to see this coming up again. And the bank's going to legit foreclose on their house. And by the way, that's not the broader market where we're going to say. I'm not saying the market's going to crash. It's not. But you will have the onesies and twosies that are just incredibly, they're out of money. They've run too much debt. They can't pay their debt. They're being forced to sell their house. All right. So anyway, going back to this, the short sales where they've lived in their house, not making a payment for 3 or 4 years. Okay? And then now the bank's actually legit going to foreclose on them on Friday. All right. And they call you. It's like, help me, help me, help me. The bank's going to foreclose on my house. I need your help. So yes, as an agent, you can come in and you can stop the foreclosure process, hopefully if they give you enough time, which only takes a couple of days, right? And then for the next, in the short sale days, 2 years, you're soliciting offers, submitting them to the bank, and you got to fax everything to the bank, right? Because they don't do email. So it's faxing everything, and there's nobody to talk to. And then you get an email from a no reply email saying we need all their updated financials. So you got to put all their financials together again. You got to submit it to them again, and then you don't hear for a month. And they say, well, those financials were expired. We need new ones again. It's like, well, yeah, if you'd opened the email last month, but hey, but you do that for 2 years. And then finally, when you finally get an approval, if you get an approval after 2 years of doing this, then all of a sudden you have the sellers trying to sabotage your deal because now they finally are going to have to leave and start to pay to live. And now they're doing everything they possibly can to undermine the 2 years of work you put into this thing. Yeah, that's the stuff that's not on selling. So that's the reality of real estate. It's very, very hard. People have no idea how hard real estate is. And that's why such a small percentage of agents ever see their 3rd year, much less their 5th year or their 10th year. It's hard. People don't have any idea. The selling sunset thing has caused, honestly, so many people to go broke because it sells a dream, a fantasy that doesn't exist. And they change their lives and they throw all their eggs in this one basket. I'm going to go be a realtor, just like selling sunset. Yeah.
I'm pretty and people like me, so I think I'll be good at this.
Yeah.
Right? No.
Doesn't work.
Yes, sir. I've had a lot of appraisals come back where I looked at the photos and I'm like, oh my God, this is insane.
I had one of my agents send me a text. He just took a picture of his 2 shoes, and they weren't on his feet. And he just had him sitting there. He goes, look at my beautiful new shoes that I have to throw away because they are covered in cat shit. Because I could not navigate all the landmines of cat shit, and they were covered in cat shit. And he had a quick video of it, and it was this very interesting, let's just call it an avant-garde type of leopard pattern carpet through the whole house. And it wasn't a leopard pattern carpet. It was hundreds and hundreds of piles of cat shit.
This game is dirty sometimes. Good Lord.
Yep. Well, those houses won't go retail, so then you need the pool of investors that'll come in and sweep that house.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's no open house for that.
No, there's no open house for that.
There's nothing you can do about that one.
Yeah.
So speaking of open houses, do you think it's just an excuse for the neighbors to come and take a look at the house, or do they really drive sales?
Well, the house itself very, very rarely ever sells in an open house. Now, when I was a new agent, that was the only tool I had because I didn't have any money. Like I was just like everybody.
For the marketing?
Yeah, I didn't have any money for marketing. I was an independent agent working at a brokerage that gave me the 2-hour Tom Hopkins training VHS and said, go. So I just had to stand in open houses and figure out all my open house techniques. And like I really worked, I was science. I mean, like I'd go down, I was so granular with it that where I'd put my signs out was very strategic. I would look at the satellite imagery, where am I going to put my signs? Now this is the military guy in me coming out, okay? Because remember, I was an infantry platoon commander.
You're getting tactical.
Commander. Yeah, it was absolutely tactical. All right, so where's it going to be? And I realized that you got that dipshit agent that just dipshit. You're going to put one sign on the corner where they got to turn right. You know, the only person who's going to turn right is the person who is turning right already, who already lives in that neighborhood, who is not interested in buying the house down the street, right? You have to put your signs out, and I made it look like a flipping parade route. Okay, the signs, the flags, all that. It was a parade route. So I was putting out in between, 15 to 25 signs. Not only that, again, the military guy in me was coming out. I realized a sign that is in the sun against a dark background is what you really want. So I would look at, these are where I want my signs, but where are the shadows from the trees? Where are the shadows going to be in 3 hours? And I would position my signs to make sure that they're in the sun, but with the shadow as a background. And then when you get into the techniques of inside the house, there's a whole series of classes that go with that. Is in order to, because I mean, think about it. Why is an agent doing the open house? They're doing the open house to generate buyers and sellers. The house is the tool. It's just the place to meet. That's all it is. Does it sell once in a while? Once in a while. Very rarely. I made hundreds of thousands of dollars doing open houses through the first 7 years of my career. Hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. And that was it. That's all I had is every single Saturday and every single Sunday I was doing my open houses. I would start my day out very early in the morning, wake up at 4:30, something like that. I'd have everything printed out, all my stuff, and then at 9 a.m. I'd meet my morning buyer where I'd go out and show them maybe 10 houses, right? Then I'd stop, get them out of my car, I'd put out all my signs, which takes 45 minutes to an hour, right? Then I'd hold my open house for a few hours, and then I'd go pick up all my signs. And by the way, picking up signs only takes half the time as putting them out. I never understood why it was so much quicker because you got to stop at all the same spots, but whatever. And then I would meet my early afternoon buyer. It was all planned where I'd show them 10 houses. And then I'd meet my late afternoon / evening buyer where I'd have flashlights in there, right? And we go look at houses that way because there was a lot of vacant houses back there, right? That was every single Saturday and every single Sunday for 7 or 8 years. And that's what, so I have a saying in my company, if it's Saturday and Sunday or a holiday, if the sun is above the horizon on either side, your ass and your couch do not meet. They are not allowed to know each other. I don't care. I love the fact you love football. Watch it at midnight. Right? When you get home and you get all your crap done, make sure you record it. Because that's when you're watching it. Do not be home. The fans are in the stands, you got to play ball. Going back to your question about the neighbors. I love to have the neighbors in the house. I sold the neighbors a lot of houses because maybe they're interested in selling too. Right. But also the other thing about the neighbors is it actually drives kind of a buzz about the house because there's more people in the house. People, we are animals. We do have a herd mentality. If everybody else is doing something, we're very interested in it. They were unpaid actors. They don't have a sign. They don't want to wear a shirt that says, "I'm a neighbor. I'm not really a buyer." Other people walk in the house don't know that. They're unpaid actors. They're fantastic. So yeah, open houses was great. I made a lot of money off of that. It's harder now, but I made a lot of money off it. And if most agents have no budget at all. So the only thing they have is time. Use your time wisely. Figure it out. If you ever get an objection from somebody, first of all, you need to know, is it a statement, is it a condition, or is it an objection? You have to know that from sales. Is it a statement? Is it a condition or an actual objection? You have to know the difference. Then, if it's an objection and you fail to overcome it, you have to never let that happen again. I have it in my team. I say, hey, everybody put your hand in the air. If you had an objection you couldn't overcome, all the hands would go up. Would you keep your hand in the air if you had that objection a second time and still didn't overcome it? That one's your fault. Because you got the objection, you got the script, you got the test question. You just failed to look up the answer. You knew it was coming.
All right, so you've got a lot of experience in the real estate game. And let's say if you had to do it over, if you had to start from scratch, what would you do completely different this time around?
I'd join a team. It would have saved me 10 years of lessons learned. Like a good team. Not just a team, but top tier team. It'd been one of the agents on that team because they're not going to, remember the teams invest, the big teams that are actually providing appointments, and there's only a couple of us. There's lots of teams in Southern California here, but there are only a couple that actually give appointments to the agents. Most of them say, oh, we give you leads. Leads are bullshit. All right. Actual appointments to meet. You have an appointment to meet Mr. and Mrs. Smith at their house at this time. Right. This is what they want to do. That's an appointment. You're showing up. They're already there. They're expecting you to show up. That's an appointment. That would have been good because those teams are not going to invest in the agent until the agent has gone through the training. And on my team, the training is ridiculous. It's a cut. Like, honestly speaking, it's a cut. Half the people make it through the training. That's it. Only half make it through. All right. And the other half go somewhere else. I am not going to invest in you. I'm not going to write a check. Because remember, my company is just Jim Bottrell. Right. There's no Wall Street. There's no investors. There's no debt. There are no partners. So this is me stroking out a check for every appointment that the agent goes into. I will not invest in somebody until they prove to me that they have the ability to close somebody. They have the ability to get that client what it is they want and do so in a good and professional manner. Without that, you don't get my money. Treat my money well, or you won't get any more of it. That's kind of how it works. So I would have joined a team and fast forwarded 10 years worth of hard lessons. Like, everything that we have on our team, every slide, every page of every presentation, every piece of collateral, every script, every tool we have, they're all built off of my failures. Like, if I would go to a listing appointment, back in the day, I was an individual agent, and I would go to a listing appointment and I do my whole dog and pony show, and let's say I didn't get the listing. I was obsessive to find out exactly why I didn't get the listing. I need to know. And I would call the people and say, well, we just chose somebody else. Okay, great. I'm sorry it didn't work out between us. However, I need to know what it is that person said or didn't say, or what I said or didn't say that made you choose them. Well, it was just a feeling. Nope, not good enough. I mean, I've already lost the client, right?
Yep.
I might as well get something out of it now. I might as well get the education that I need as to why I didn't get it. And I would press them. And I would say, I understand that. It was a feeling, but please understand my position. I have a family. I have kids I have to feed. I have a mortgage I have to pay. I have, for private school, I have to put my kids in. I have all kinds of expenses. I can't afford to take these losses like this. And I understand, and you're never going to hear from me again for the rest of your life. I'm not asking you to change everything. You've already signed with somebody. I'm not interfering with that contract. You made your decision, so you're never going to hear from me again. But I have to know for my family what it is that they said or didn't say, or what I said or didn't say, as to why you chose them. And I never let them off the hook. And if they wouldn't tell me, you know what I did? I went to their house at dinner time, and I'd knock on their fucking door. And I would stand there and say, I need to know what it was. And if I was that persistent, they would tell me just to get me the fuck out of there. That's fine. And I would never talk to them again. I never once ever tried to change their mind. They've already signed an agreement. That's it. I lost. Now I'm going to make the best of the loss. And I could have, and from that, it's like maybe they would say, oh, well, they, advertise on this platform. I'm like, I guess I need to advertise on that platform. And by the way, also going to make a slide of it. Mm-hmm. All right. Every slide in our presentations is built off of one of my failures. So that a reason that I lost the listing becomes a slide. So that can never happen again. You can't be okay with losing, because if you're okay with losing, you're a loser and you're going to lose again. It cannot happen. So I'm not okay with losing.
Where did you get this growth mindset? Is it from your dad, from the military?
It's been my whole life.
It's innate?
Yeah. I'm a very intense person. All right. I come with a fucking warning label. I'm not kidding. I come with a warning label. There are people who really love the intensity. Like, yeah, let's go, right? I love that. And there's a lot of people that just, dude, that guy's way too intense for me. That's fine. We're not going to get along. It's just not going to work.
Move out of the way.
Yeah, just go somewhere else. All right, it's not going to work. For me, I have such a hard drive, but it's been that way my whole life as a kid. I was the one that would show up before practice and work on things, and I'd be at practice, and then I'd practice after practice to make sure whatever I needed to do was so that we would win. I had to be the first pick on the All-Star team. I had to be, on the winning guy. I had to do all of these things because I just hate losing so much. I like winning. I enjoy winning. I fucking hate losing. Losing's not okay with me. So I just learned to be that way. And I'm fine with it. I'm comfortable in my own skin. That there's a lot of people that don't like me because of that. It doesn't bother me. It's okay. There's a lot of people, the DISC personality profile.
Yep.
You take a guess at where I am on that.
High D?
High D. Like, actually max the scale on D. Like on the one to scale out of 100, you have the natural and adapted. Natural, I actually tested a 100 out of 100. The adapted, like when you're on, right, dialed it way down to 98, right? Now the I, which is interesting, is I have virtually no I at all. This is the party people, the ones that like to be liked. Adapted, it went up, but natural, no. If you're one of my friends, if I'm closer to you, we're a relationship, then there's a lot of I with people that I know. Huge I with people that I know, but the public, no. No, I understand and I'm comfortable with the fact that there's a category of people that don't like me, that don't want to be around me because I'm just too intense and too demanding, whatever. People join this team and sometimes like, you just ride me awful hard. It's like, you told me you want, when you signed, you said you wanted to be successful. You gave me your goals. This is what it takes to get your goals. Would you prefer that I just be a smile and a hug and just watch you fail on your dream? Is that what you want? Or do you want to achieve the goals? You got to pick one of pick one, right? This is your dream, achieves everything you wanted. This is you being broke, but we're friends. Which one do you want? Sometimes they pick this one. Okay, no harm, no foul. That's fine.
But get out of the way.
You can't be here.
If you could only teach a brand new real estate agent one thing before they start, what would it be?
Don't try and invent the wheel. The wheel already exists. Go to a place where they will teach you. And this isn't just a new agent, this is anybody. Whatever it is you want to do, find the person who they themselves, that human being, has achieved personally everything that you want to achieve, and then get close to that person. Right? Don't take somebody just because they're a coach. They say they're a coach, that they're any good. I look, a very funny story is the very first agent I ever hired on this team, and this is when I was still running it out of a spare bedroom in my house, right, was a past client of mine. And he joined, and I'd helped him buy this house, and it was great, and he got his real estate license, and his life was a disaster. Like, as I got to know him, as like the very first agent, now we're getting close, and I'm trying to teach him all this stuff, his life was a disaster. And it was just such a distraction, all the chaos inside his life and everything. He couldn't manage the most simple things. And he left the industry. Take a guess at what job he went into. You're not going to guess it.
No.
Because it's so far out of there. He's a life coach.
Oh, my goodness.
Like, no shit, paid life coach.
He said, if you can't do, teach. That's not how it works.
So that's the thing. That's the thing that I say is, whatever it is, if you want to be really good at real estate, find somebody who they themselves personally have been really good at real estate. Like, they have had massive success themselves as an agent, not just a forever coach. They can stand up front, but's never sold a stick of real estate. There's a lot of those. It's a lot of those, right? If it's, once you get good at real estate, you got to figure out the finance aspect of it, right? You got to find somebody who's really good at the personal finance stuff. How did you make your money? Why is it that you live in the giant house on top of the hill? What did you do? Because successful people, they like to talk about what they've done. Remember what I told you before? Successful people talk about, look what I did, look what I overcame, look what I accomplished. And unsuccessful people say, look what happened to me.
Yeah.
Right? Successful people like to talk about it. So let them. Get close to them, but do the due diligence to make sure they are who they're purporting to be. I mean, financial managers, I get calls from financial managers, and I tell them, it's like, fine, no problem. I will meet with you, to possibly manage the money. But when you show up, you're going to bring me your statements, your financial statements that have the institution name, your name, and balances bigger than mine. Or we don't need to have this appointment, because that's the first thing that hits the table. Are we meeting or not? And it's no, right? Because I'm not going to take advice from somebody who's actually less than what I do. So that's my advice for not just people who want to be real estate agents, that's anybody. If you want to do, there's plenty of people out there that are willing to help in whatever it is that you want to do. There's a tons of people out there that are willing to do it. You just got to find it. And not all of them request money. I do finance classes for my agents. I've done pretty well. I've achieved everything that my agents want to achieve in real estate and in personal finance. So I teach finance classes, 100% voluntary. We bring them in different days. Come on in, and I'm telling my story, a series of 5 classes that we go through, and I reset it every single year. And I'm not a financial advisor, an accountant, or an attorney. Consult yours before you do it. I always tell you that, right? But I go through, I talk about the levels of investing, the different ways that poor people, middle class, and wealthy people look at income and the way they look at debt, how they use them. We go through those categories. We talk about stages, like just getting to zero, right? There's so many people out there that you got to get to zero net worth. Then you got to get to 10,000. It's actually easier to get from 0 to 10,000 than it was to get to zero. And then you got to get to 100,000. We go through different ways of, I give them tasks on, I want you to look at the last 90 days and I want you to categorize every single expense into 3 categories. And once you realize where you're spending your money, your next task is to go into the bathroom, lift up the toilet seat and puke, because you realize where you just wasted all your money. You don't have an income problem, you have a spending problem. Right? Poor people are the ones that use DoorDash all the time. I never used DoorDash. I did it one time. They screwed up everybody's order. Like, never doing it again. We'll just go get ourselves, right? It's funny that we see it. They'll spend $50 at Taco Bell to have somebody bring it to them. Are you kidding me?
Can't stand DoorDash.
No, but I mean, it's that type of, it's not the income problem, it's the spending problem.
Right.
And then we walk through different types of taxes. Like once you get to zero, now we have, what are the tax deductions that what are the tax deductions that an independent contractor can make? So I explained the difference between W-2 employee and 1099 from a tax perspective. Again, I'm not an accountant, right? Not an attorney. Don't consult your own, and they know that. But I said this is the difference, the fundamental difference. Now, if you're an employee, you pay taxes first, then you live on what's left over, right?
Yes.
So let's take that leftover. Let's use a hypothetical $10,000. Somebody give me a tax rate to throw it out there and say, "Wait, this is how much you have to live in." Let's write a list of every expense that we have in the world. And write all the expenses out, right? And the whole room is just throwing expenses. We're writing them all. And you got to pay for all of these with this after-tax money. Now let's talk about the 1099 independent contractor, because your biggest expense is taxes. Right? Let's talk about them. So how many of these expenses here can we put into pre-tax income? And that's the advantage of the 1099. So once we get them set up on that, then it's about building wealth, different places to invest. When you talk about your 3 basic places that you can invest money. And then once you have it, then we go into protecting your money. Because once you have it, someone who didn't earn it will come and try and take it from you. 100% of the time, someone will come and try and take it from you. So now it's about hiding it all and protecting it all. And how do you do that? And that's the last class I do of the year. And then in the beginning of the year, we reset and start over. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do, actually.
I don't think anybody's really doing that.
No, it's great. Not about, all they want to do is they just want to have the agents make money. I don't want my agents to be rich. I want my agents to be wealthy. There's a difference between rich and wealth. Rich is having money that can be gone like that. Wealth is having time. Oh. When you start to look at money as a function of time, instead of to buy shit out of your Amazon cart, a lot of really cool things start to happen in your world. You have a fundamental different view of the world and how money works. Once you understand that money is not to buy shit out of your Amazon cart, it's to buy time. And then the time will in turn give you more money.
Okay, so we talked a lot about your successes, and I'm loving the transparency, but let's flip it to the other side now, and let's talk about failure. What's one failure that you've encountered that's taught you more than any success ever could?
Every failure I've ever had. Every time I didn't win. Every time I couldn't overcome an objection. Like, nobody's harder on me than me. That's something where people that are successful, that is a common trend with them, is nobody is harder on them than them. The person looking back in the mirror, that's who they're ultimately accountable to. Right? And they hold themselves to a very high level of accountability. So like I said, anytime there's ever a failure, it's an obsession. What are all the things that led to this point right here? And then you go back and you have to fix all the things. You can't be okay with failure. And I think that's probably the biggest lesson right there. You can't be okay with failure. You show me somebody who's okay with losing, I'll show you a loser. That's just the way it is, because once they fail and they're okay with failure, they are bound to do it again and again and again. And then they're going to have that non-successful mentality of, look what happened to me. So it's every single failure. You can't let it happen again. And if you're in real estate, since this is a real estate-based thing, every time you fail to convert somebody, every time you talk to somebody and you fail to convert them, you must obsess about it. You must go home And I used to have two legal paths. One is what worked and what didn't work. Right? They cannot be on the same path. They can't be. Because this one you glance at, the failure one you glance at, the win one you obsess over. This is what happened. This is what I said. This and it worked because of this. You review those over and over and over, and you build those skills into your mind. You glance at these once in a while. You don't obsess over this, because what you're going to do is you're going to train yourself to fail. Right. So, but you have to write it down so you know. So, if you're okay with failing, it's like, oh, well, they didn't sign the BRBC, whatever. Okay. No, you can't have that. What happened? Go back to the way, how did you get this lead in the first place? What was the lead source? What was the notes from the, in our case, the inside sales agent that set the appointment for you? What was in the notes? What was in there? How was I dressed? Was I there early? Were they there before me? That's a problem. Okay. That's a problem. I don't care if they show up 30 minutes early. You're asking to be standing there waiting for them. So you've got to be 30 minutes early, right? Because maybe they're early. What was said? What was the introduction like? What was the handshake like? When you said your name, did you use your first and last name? Did they use their first and last name? Did you remember their name? Did you use their names and sentences after that? These are all the things that you've got to write down and figure out, because after all of that, they didn't sign. There was a failure in there somewhere that caused a ripple effect for everything else. You have to obsess over failure. And all the biggest of the big teams around here, everybody, I'm friends with all over the nation, people that are massive performing team leaders. And what's interesting is they're all just like me. We obsess over failure. And then when we get together in masterminds, you know what we talk about? Our failures. What went right? What went wrong? Mostly focusing on what went wrong. Because you learn 10 times as much from something you didn't get right than you do when you got it right. When you got it right, it's natural outcome. When you didn't get it right, let's make sure it doesn't happen again.
Oh man. Okay. So speaking of obsessing over what didn't go right and spending the time to write down what didn't go right and what did go right and solving for those and showing up early to appointments and all the other things you mentioned, some people want to set their own schedule. It's not really a thing unless you're very successful. And even then it's going to be a sort of a brutal schedule. Talk to me about work-life balance for realtors.
What's that? No, I'm kidding. Yeah. Remember that agent that made $46,000 a year?
Yep.
Yeah, they have a great work-life balance. They don't understand that they are the same thing. You can't be, I'm at work, not living, or I am living, not at work. That is a way to make $46,000 and to be bounced out of the business in 24 months. Because that's what people think. Most people who become real estate agents, they come from a W-2 background. And when you go home, you don't have any responsibilities anymore, right?
Right.
That's W-2. That's most of society. They tell you what time to be there, what time to eat, what time to go home, and you have no responsibilities outside of that. So that's the world. Now, to get somebody to transition from something that is what I jokingly call day on, stay on, all right, not day on, day off, it's day on, stay on, right, that you are on all the time. That, like, for example, before I had kids, and also before I started the company, so when I was an agent married with my wife without kids, I played 4 full rounds of golf each week. Plus, we practiced in there also. And I was still making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year selling real estate. Well, how do you do that? You know how I did it? Back in the day, I had a little boom mic because they didn't have earbuds back then. A little boom mic that would run through my shirt to my phone that was in my pocket, and it hung over my ear, and I was on the phone the entire time when I was playing golf. And I was perfectly okay with it. A little notepad in the car, right? I'd take my notes. My phone has email and stuff. I'm forwarding email back and forth, texting, whatever it is, but I'm having a great day playing golf. And you know what's funny? You know what sound doesn't pick up on a bike? Is the driver hitting the ball. That ping. Loving life, having a great time on the golf course while I'm also working. So there's no separation of it. So the highly successful agents and their families understand that you're going to do both at the same time. I have my family. We have a second home up in Big Bear. We have a cabin up there, and I have a tricked out rock crawling Jeep that's barely street legal. All right, and I hate driving on the roads. Awful driving the roads, but it's so much fun in the boulders. Right, I'm bouldering, running around, stacking rocks under the tires when you get stuck, or maybe hooking up a winch trying to get somebody out of something like that, I'm on the phone. And it's okay. And I have those conversations, whatever I need to do, but I'm having a great time. I'm working at the same time as I'm having fun living life. So they just have to understand it. You can't be off. So there isn't a true work-life balance. It's a work while you live while you work. And you do it long. I mean, for me, I've been doing it my whole life. So it's just life.
It's just a lifestyle at this point, right?
Still, yeah, it's just the way it is. My family's very good about it. The only times that I don't ever answer the phone if I'm on the ever elusive date with my wife, right? I don't want to answer the phone right then. Or if I'm on the phone with someone else, right? And that was another big sales point when I talk to clients. And I say, I always have my phone. My phone is always within arm's reach of me. I will always take your calls, right? I'm going to be very responsive. If I don't answer your call, there's only two things. There's only two reasons. One is I'm face to face with somebody else. Like, for example, I'm face to face with you right now. I'm going to give you the courtesy of my full attention. If the phone rings, they're going to go to voicemail. I'm going to call them back once we're done talking, right? Or if I'm on the ever elusive date with my wife, I'm going to give her the full attention, my full attention. That was a great speech, and it was true. That's the way that was. So that's the work-life balance. If you try to be a real estate agent and want to have your work-life balance, you're going to last 24 months and you're going to be balanced out, bro. And you're going to spend the next 3 years trying to get back to even after you spent all your money and all your savings and you buried yourself. You were in a hole and you kept digging.
You know what I call that? That's the struggle bus.
It's struggle bus.
Yep.
Yeah.
So speaking of struggles, let's talk about when things go wrong as a real estate agent. What happens?
Things are going to go wrong. You're going to have clients that get upset with you. You're going to have offers that aren't accepted. You're going to have the worst ones, like when an escrow, when your listing agent falls out of escrow. Or, I mean, listing agent's hard. I told you buyers take time and sellers take mental energy. The weird thing about sellers is there's so many things that can go wrong, and it's such an emotional ride for them. It's hard, and it's totally understandable. You have the sellers that are, sometimes they can be a little bit crazy. And if you're a real estate agent, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You have some great conversations and you have a lot of bad conversations. Not their fault, not your fault, but they just are. But they do tend to blame you. They did the home inspection. Turns out the HVAC doesn't work. It turns out this. It turns out that. There's all these other things. Well, I bought the house this way, whatever. Like, you got a Zinsco panel on here that's been recalled. The electrical panel. That needs to be replaced. Fire hazard, whatever it is. Well, I bought the house with that panel. I was like, yeah, but you also bought it, FISBO. So you own it now. Then the pest inspection comes, and now there's termites, and now the house has to be tented, and I mean it's all your fault at that point in time. Or the appraisal comes in low, or the people were supposed to close on a certain day because my sellers are buying another house in a daisy chain of houses, and their lender didn't get it done, and they're not really going to close, and it pushes everything off. But hey, the moving trucks are here. That's fantastic, right? But you got nowhere to go because you didn't close in this house when you need the money from this house to buy that house. What happens then? I mean, those are things going wrong, and you just have to take a step back and breathe. I remember one client, it was Lisa. She was a screamer, just screaming over everything. It's like, wow, she's trying to sell her appliances on Craigslist and just screaming at me why they're not selling. Like, I don't think, but like, I'm not your Craigslist. And it got so bad at once, I did what I call a reset on the conversation, where she was screaming at me about the fact she had termites and to tent the house was going to be like $5,000 or something like this, and just screaming at me. And I was very quiet. Anytime, I mean, it happens once in a while. It just does. And they're just people that are just screamers. And if you're in real estate, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I just get super quiet. I won't say a word. Just let them run out of gas. And then they'll say, "Are you there?" I say, "Yeah, I'm here." Yeah. Why aren't you saying anything? I didn't need to answer. You were doing all the talking. But anyway, so she was screaming at me, and I did basically a pattern interrupt. And I said, "Lisa, you're very upset about this, but I do have a question." "What's your question?" "Do you think that I'm the one that put the termites in your house?" Okay. Now, I knew that was a ridiculous question, but it made her take a step back and realize that she was being irrational. So those things happen. You'll have a lot of those things. As far as when things go wrong, go back to your original question, things are going to go wrong. The difference is how do you react to it? What do you do about it? Do you put in measures, learn skills, take the time to learn skills, consult people that are your mentors as to how, did you go back and do the full autopsy and figure out what caused this? What happened to get us to this point? When somebody dies from a heart attack, there were a lot of things that happened prior to that heart attack, right? There were a lot of things that were going wrong, probably for some period of time.
Yep.
But we didn't diagnose them early on, which led to the heart attack. If you take something that went wrong and you can dial it back, peel back the layers of the onion, go back to the very beginning, the nexus of it, and learn this is where the failure point was. Now I'm aware of, if this happens, eventually it will lead to this, so I have to stop that from happening.
I love it, man. This has been very insightful. The transparency was off the charts. The energy was off the charts.
Good.
These are really tough questions.
I had a good time. I have to admit, I've been looking forward to this for 2 days.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I have been.
Awesome.
I've been excited about it because I don't get to talk about this stuff. I mean, nobody wants to ask the dirty little secrets.
No.
Like, you're not the first person asked to interview me. And I say back, don't ask me these stupid questions. Don't ask me questions like, what can a buyer do to help them? No, anybody can answer that. That's nothing. I want to talk about the dirty little secrets. I want to talk about the stuff that nobody wants to talk about. I want to talk about the hard stuff. I want to talk about the traits of people who succeed and people who don't. I want to talk about those things. So I'm glad that you had the balls to ask the questions. There was a great list of questions that you came up with. Tribute to you. Good question.
Hey, I appreciate you taking the time to do this with me today. I know you have a ton going on. You've got clients to help. You've got a team to lead. So you taking the 2 hours out of your day to do this with me means a lot. Thank you, Jim. Jim Bottrell, everybody.